Um, yeah, let's start this thing.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Metacast podcast. This is the podcast that explores itself, explores ourselves, and explores the self in general. My name is Ty. I'm going to be your host.
And I'm Distance, your somewhat depressed co-host.
And tonight, we are both somewhat depressed because tonight is the Metacast movie show about the movie Only. Only came out in 2019, and it's written and directed by Takashi Dosher.
It stars Frida Pinto and Leslie Odom Jr. The tomato meter rating is 39%, and because the movie's so new, there's no audience score on Rotten Tomatoes yet.
The film is a contemplative post-apocalyptic drama that focuses on a young couple trying to survive in a world that is ravaged by a mysterious virus. It's an interesting one. I kind of want to go straight to the verdict. So the question is, should you watch Only? I actually don't even know what I'm gonna give for this yet. I'm borderline between the two.
You had a week to think, though.
I did, but I've like it's a tough question. I'm gonna give a yes with a caveat. Like, yes, if you're okay with something that's pretty bleak, pretty depressing, and is not gonna leave you with a lot of hope at the end. What about you?
I'm gonna say no on this one.
I understand. Is the reason why because of the as I explained, because it's going to leave you without a lot of hope?
Yeah, like it's I mean, I know it's a Glock movie.
Explain.
Glocks are really good guns that I don't like.
Okay.
So this is like a really good movie that like I just couldn't like. It was just too much for me. Like there was just it's something that I don't know. Like there's some movies that are like sad, but it's somehow liberating. Like Curious Case of Benjamin Button. That's like a sad movie, but you feel sort of liberated by the sadness. Lego Batman. That's a sad movie that makes you feel liberated by the sadness. Don't judge me. I thought it was sad.
That's a good one.
I mentioned on many occasions I've cried during that film. But yeah, it just I just couldn't handle it, and like some of the writing was like kind of hacky.
Yeah.
In that it's like they were trying to like upset you as much as they could.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's actually some snippets of really, really good acting.
Yeah, I think. Well, and honestly, I mean, I don't want to like. I enjoyed the movie, and I mean, obviously, I did even get. Oh shit! Hold on. Whoops. We're supposed to have this as the answer. There we go. I said yes. You said no. There we go. My bad. I had the wrong. I told you I was gonna fuck up these scenes already.
It's fine. We got time. We got time to be good.
But the you even called it a good movie, but it's like the critics don't really agree. I mean, it had a pretty, like, 39 is a pretty low tomato meter score. Like, it was not really critically received well.
If you look at the movie from like beginning to end, it kind of sucks. But there's moments where you can see different like skills coming out, like with the creators. I mean, they had a lot of I don't know if and I kind of noticed a lot of really tight camera work. In a lot of spots, because I think they were trying to capture like the emotion of the people involved. I thought it was kind of lame that they never explained certain parts of it.
Well, let's I think we've given enough of our like spoiler free review. Like we can start to delve into what actually went on in the movie. So yeah, go ahead with that thought then. Let's just in case you were getting into spoiler territory.
Like the ash, like there's no explanation of exactly what's happening. All that you know is that this HNV-21 virus, they call it, is in this ash stuff. You never have any explanation of what's happening or why.
Well, you know that it came from the comet. It is like there was a comet that came close to the planet, and that it was like, wow, we passed through the tail of the comet, all of a sudden this mysterious ash started falling, and that there was a weird disease in it. But I liked that so often in like end of the world movies, or like these kind of dystopian like future movies, there's almost this top down view where you know what's going on and you have an understanding of the situation, versus this, you almost felt like the people in that situation would feel, where it's like you really only knew what this couple knew. You didn't know like the big picture, which I thought that was like, it adds, it's almost like you saw Cloverfield, right?
Yeah.
It's like that, where it's like, it's not a top-down monster movie. It's like you're on the ground with this group of people and you only know what they know of what's going on. And it gives it like a much more like almost panicked kind of feeling, which I think is interesting. But
maybe I have control issues.
That's one thing that I like, where I used to hate these movies, because it is like a big lack of control. You feel weird that it's like, well, shit, I have no idea what's going on. Like I'm lost in it, like the characters are.
And, you know, like there's a lot of stuff in the movie that, you know, and I mean, to clarify my answer for the should you watch, like, I mean, there's some movies that I feel like you are going to be missing out if you don't watch this movie.
Yeah.
And this is not one where you absolutely must. I mean, there's stuff to be had and things to be enjoyed about the film, especially if you are, you know, like to hurt yourself and want to just curl up on the couch with a pint of Haagen-Dazs. By the way, that pint of Ben & Jerry's that's been sitting in my refrigerator since the beginning of the plague in the U.S., I seriously thought about eating it after I watched this.
Are you serious?
Movie.
This almost, wow.
I was like, dude, this is like almost like pint of Ben & Jerry's like movie here, because it was very, very heavy for me, because
we're living through a kind of like, you know, a very small version of this right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a much, it's because the thing with that is it appears that like in the movie, like females, regardless of age, or medical condition or health, like it just kills them.
Yeah.
So it's a little more intense because of that. But the problem that I had with it, the thing that really bothered me the most about watching the film was that I'm like a really protective kind of person, and not just like with like, you know, my mom and my sisters, my like my significant other, whoever I'm dating at the time, or like my nephews or my niece. Like I'm not just like protective with them. I'm kind of like that with everybody. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, like if anything hurts anyone that I know, like I always want to be able to stop it, or I wish that I could, you know. And so for me, I thought about all of the women in my life that are meaningful to me, and I was like, damn, like if they were all gone, and if I was able to do something, then how far would I go? What would I do?
Yeah.
Because it gets to the point where Ava is almost like, that's her name, right? Ava?
Yeah. Ava and Will are
It's the part where she's almost violated by Will because of all of the, you know, like all of the sort of what he's exerting, like, oh, leave the phone in the bag, don't get it out of the bag.
And she even like specifically says that in that one scene where it's like, did I choose this? It's like she woke up that morning and it's like, you know, Will and her dad had already had the conversations of like, okay, this is what you must do to quarantine. And like, yeah, and that's what I think is the most interesting thing about this movie, is those ideas it explores of like, I put it as living versus surviving. And I think that Will was like, he knew how to survive, but to Ava, it wasn't living. And there comes a certain point where it's like, you know, she was even asking, it's like, well, what are we waiting for? You know, it's like, how long do we do this? Do we live this? Do we quote unquote live this life of just survival before it's worth it to just say like, okay, well, I'm going to do what and I feel like a lot of people in the US are kind of having that same conversation right now with like you pointed out, a much less deadly version, but it's like we're dealing with a virus outbreak right now, and a lot of people are having that same conversation of like, okay, well, maybe it is safer to wear a mask or things like that, but that impedes my enjoyment of life, so fuck it, I'm not going to. And I think that it's like it's a very like different situation, but I see the parallels though, and I see the human the need for freedom, and then the need to kind of like, when someone tells you not to do something, as a human, the first thing you want to do is what they told you not to do.
Yeah, I mean, in many cases, I think that's true. Like, there is something about that. But, you know, like, I think that maybe, like, in what you were saying, actually, kind of, I started to think about it, that, you know, maybe the reason why it wasn't as relatable, I think, to now is mainly because of my age, and that I don't feel threatened necessarily
Yeah.
as much by the coronavirus. But like my dad, he turns fucking 80 in August.
Mhm.
And like for him it's like more than likely dead.
Well,
And
that
he has been stuck at
I liked that
home for a
parallel in this
while.
movie too, is that the males were just carriers. So even like in this situation, you wouldn't necessarily feel threatened yourself, but it's like,
Yeah.
oh shit, I could kill any one of these loved ones, anyone that, you know, that is female.
Yeah, it's like my sister and her son went over to see my dad, and he told me that they stayed about 10 feet away.
Mhm.
Which I mean, for me, like that's really, you know, because my dad, like our family, like we're huggers.
Yeah, yeah.
So like I can only imagine like how difficult it must have been for him to be like, oh, hello, daughter, hello, grandson, like, hi.
Yeah, that would
from
be
10 feet away.
that would be weird.
Like,
Yeah.
like that would upset me if I were him, because you know these people, and you know, and you're also he and his wife are stuck at home together, so it's like I haven't asked him like, are you guys driving each other crazy, because I'm afraid of what he's gonna tell me.
Well, that's another thing that I love that this movie went into, because we're seeing that in the real world too, of people like you're talking about when you're you know, sheltered in place with one person and you don't really get to go anywhere. That kind of rides emotions pretty thin, and there ends up like with some contention there. And that was, I mean, in this movie, Ava and Will ended up like about to kill each other because of like before dealing with anything other than just each other. The fact that they were just like together and couldn't go anywhere.
Because you know, it's like, to me, it's I feel like if anybody asked me what the movie's like, I'm like, imagine being stuck with your significant other for a really long time, and exactly what you would do and exactly what you would say and exactly what you would think, but there's a deadly virus outside.
Yep.
Like that's the movie. But I do like that. I like the freak out scene where Ava like loses her shit completely.
Mm-hmm.
That was some very on point acting.
Is that
I think
is that the one where she actually pulled the gun on him and told him to leave, or what?
I believe. I can't remember if it was that scene or, because it's the one where she is like at a certain point she's on the ground, more or less like hysterically shouting.
I think that is that one.
I
Yeah.
think that was before. I think that might have been like right before, because like there's a weird like segue that I don't quite remember very well, where she picks up the gun and points at him. Because for me, like I'm sitting there like, I cannot believe she's pointing a gun at him.
Yeah.
Also, I'm sorry, I just have to say this: the scene where they're shooting at stuff in the woods. What the fuck are they doing?
That seemed fun. What do you mean?
She's got like both of her fingers, and so does he on the and they're holding it like this. What is that?
Neither of them.
Why did you even?
Because neither of them knew how to use a gun, right? Like
Well,
he
it's
bought
like,
it from
why
a.
not? Like, would you buy it at the place? Ask him maybe, how do you use this thing?
They were in the. You watched the movie, right? Like he bought it like weeks after. Okay, do you remember the store that he bought it from? Do you really do you really consider that scene to like, okay, so remember the scene, the feeling of that scene, the dude behind the counter. Do you really think it was like for after buying it, you should be like, okay, now can I get some lessons on how to use it? Like,
yeah, he wasn't really Mr. Customer Service there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, and that was he was even like the guy even said behind the counter, "You're a little late to the party, son." It's like that was weeks after society had collapsed, basically. Like, I don't really think there were a lot of opportunities to learn at that point.
In the notes that I put on my phone, I actually have in quotes the gun.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the gun is a character.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah.
It contributes because it shows you like this point where he gets to where he feels the need to have a weapon, and he gets one, and it's laying around. It contributes to interactions between the two of them. It's a symbol when she points it at him. I'm pretty sure she has her finger on the trigger. That it's like this. It symbolizes this kind of her desperation.
Yeah,
like, I'm gonna use this thing, I'm gonna make you, that sort of thing. Which it's a Beretta 92, which is actually one of my favorite guns, by the way. And we're actually talking about those like a couple days before I watched the movie.
It's Leon's gun from Resident Evil too, for anyone who doesn't know.
And as far as guns go, like it's a very recognizable one. Like pretty much anybody that knows firearms would have noticed it. And the fact that the gun, they show a shot of the gun laying on top of that log.
Yeah.
When they get kind of drunk when they're camping, and then the two people show up.
Yep.
And then like he ends up taking it, and like there's a point where when he grabs the gun off of the log, the guy that's coming to, I guess, like collect the bounty for Ava, because she's female, when he picks up and puts it, in his waistband, I'm like, no, like I feel like one of the characters just got abducted.
Pretty much, yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god. But I know that's kind of weird, but like I just thought of it as being a character somehow. Like it contributed to the story in a few weird ways. Or like that they had this weird bonding moment too, where it's like, hey, you want to shoot at shit? Like, okay.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like it just seemed like it's a weird thing, but I really did think of it like that. Yeah.
No, I think that definitely does make sense too, because and it's also just even the shift in, I guess it's like the power they feel as characters when they have the gun. Like even remember the scene where like when they first get to the hotel and Will goes to like check in, and it's like there's the transgender prostitute that tries to kind of like hit on Eva through the window, and she like grabs, and it's like that's one moment where it's like immediately like she didn't have to say anything other than like reach for the gun, and it's like that character that knew like, oh, okay, never mind, like I'll back off. Like,
and you know, I mean, look, man, no matter how much dirt she like smears on her face, she still does not look like a dude.
Yeah, that was one thing that I kind of brought up in my notes, and I thought it was kind of stupid that they were like, her disguise was silly. It was not like, but at the same time, I kind of wondered. First of all, people talk about like hiding in plain sight is kind of, a lot of times it just works when you're not looking for something, and especially like at that point, this is 400 days into this. You're not expecting to see a woman out, so it's like you're not even going to be very like, you know, like skeptical of like any person you see. So it's like while her disguise was, you know, pretty silly and didn't really work that well, I do wonder, it's like, well, you know, would anyone even be looking for a woman out walking at that point, or did it just kind of like, was it able to fly under the radar just because of how actually upfront it was?
That makes sense. I mean, I guess people wouldn't really make that assumption. So one thing that I did kind of think was cool, like about the keeping the audience in the dark thing, is when they're in the grocery store.
Yeah.
And the guy that's working there like pulls her hood down. And he's like, oh, I'm like, wait, why is he freaking out? And I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, because I remember the first time I was watching this movie, I didn't get it yet. And I even thought this right a second before that, she's in the aisle and it's like, there's the Tampax section is all like, you know, it says free on it and it's like fully stocked and like a lot of the other shelves are ravaged. I thought it was stupid because behind her you could see the cleaning supplies and there were cleaning supplies on the shelves, and I was like, knowing what we're living through right now, I was like, no, that's bullshit. The cleaning supplies would be gone. There's no reason that there'd be Clorox sitting there on the shelf. But it turns out, you know, they were in a different situation where I guess a lot of people did realize that the cleaning supply, unless you're specifically trying to harbor a woman and keep them safe, you don't really give a fuck about the cleaning supplies. Like, and I thought it was kind of funny. I was wondering like, well, why is the women's supplies free? Even once I realized it was only affecting women, but it's like, I wondered, was that a trap? If you see a guy come in and grab something from that section that's free and walk out, it's like, okay, I can follow that guy and he's hiding a woman somewhere.
Yeah, like there was a brief moment that I thought was kind of weird where she kind of like stares at them as like, I'm like, bro, take a few.
Well, I think it was also for her probably just powerful, realizing like, fuck, like my gender or my sex is like literally endangered or about to be extinct. Like, just like the online chat room, like that was a really powerful visual symbol with all the like the pictures with their last date on the wall and everything. Like, yeah, that was.
Yeah, and I mean, I just, and like I said, like it's a good movie. Like it's pretty well made. I mean, it's not like the most amazing storyline I've ever heard, but I think that the acting is good.
Yeah, I think and for a small budget, I think they did really well with what they had. It was, you know, there's not a lot of like powerful like CGI, you know, visuals in the movie or anything like that, but. I'm sorry, Big Dog in chat just brought up something that was we hadn't really touched on this, but the fact that it was not in like a linear time sense, that it kind of jumps back and forth in time, that kind of makes some of it hard to follow. And that there was stuff that I didn't really realize was happening in a certain order until my second viewing, because it was like the first viewing, it was just like it's throwing so much at you, like I wasn't even realizing that it was changing timelines basically. But
yeah, like for a movie like that, I think that they didn't really have much of a choice but to kind of do the sort of like out of order, like flashback kind of timeline, because it does kind of contribute to the whole audience in the dark thing. Yeah. But there were a few moments where I did get a tiny bit confused. I mean, the beginning of the movie was very strange to me, because I didn't really get any of what was happening, and I guess that was, you know, by design. And there's, because you start with like a torn open like plastic, and then there's like what looks like a hazard suit and I guess some undergarments.
Yeah.
and there's like someone in a shower.
Yeah, because
And then
it starts with him like being raided basically, like, and that's like, yeah, it starts like day 400 already. Yeah.
And then she goes in there and like hides, and it's kind of like, what is going on? And and I think that's really the only thing that that I think really kept me watching the movie, and also the fact that I needed to do a talk about it.
Yeah, true.
On a media outlet. But other than that, I mean, it's the fact that like I kind of wanted to know what was going to happen. But dude, the fucking ending.
Yeah, the ending was pretty, like, I mean, it's like, and it wasn't a surprise either. Like, I knew where it was going. It was super telegraphed. And it was like, but it was still like, I think it was well done and it was powerful. And it was cool. It was interesting to me that like she made the decision to catch it, basically. Like, it was not an accident. Like, you know, it's like earlier in the movie, she's taking the test to find out if she like was infected or not. And it's like, but she did that on purpose. She made that decision. And you even see that she struggled with that decision later in the woods. Like, it's a permanent, like, that's tough. That's like making the decision to kill yourself, and it takes 6 days. And there's no going back from that first moment. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, you got 6 days to second guess yourself. You know, I did kind of, I did kind of admire a little bit about her just saying fuck this.
Yeah,
like, I'm gonna go outside, I'm gonna see what the sun looks like, I'm gonna feel the fucking wind on my face, I'm just gonna go out there and do it. And you know, I there's moments where I thought to myself, if it were me and this were my partner, I don't, would I be going as crazy trying to like protect them, and like would I be crossing the line like that? And you know, for me, like, I have a big problem with not being able to be around all the time, you know, for the people that I care about. And I worry, and I recognize that's irrational and probably unhealthy, but you know, there was some reflection in watching the film, and like how much he freaks out when he's running across the roof, like screaming her name, and like how like devastated he is when she like opens up the hood on that suit.
It's gotta be, I mean, like, not only are you watching someone that you love basically choose to die, but also like the selfish part of it, you worked so hard keeping them safe for over a year, and now it's like they're choosing to basically throw all of that away. And that would be frustrating. Like, not only like, yes, I love that person, but like, not only, it's just like, well, fuck, like I tried so hard, and you're choosing to throw away all of my work. Like, yeah, that's frustrating.
And I mean, I totally get it. I'm sure that had a lot to do with it for him as a character, that, you know, that he tried so hard and put in so much effort.
And that was one thing that I thought that you would identify with, is like Will's need to protect and survive in this movie. That like, I thought that was one thing that you would like from it.
Yeah, and it's not. I mean, I'm not gonna say I loved it. I could relate. I could relate to it. And, and it kind of made me realize, like, bro, would that be you? Like, I think that would be you. Shit. And you know, like I felt. Okay, this is sort of silly, but I thought to myself, a lot of like kind of douchey, like womanizer types that don't really have a lot of respect for women should really watch this movie, because I thought to myself, like, yeah, buddy, but like you'd probably realize what you were taking for granted if they all just died.
Probably, yeah.
Like, you know, and like, you know, the guy's like, oh man, I just wish I could hang out with my bros all the time, man. My wife sucks so bad, bro. Like, okay, well, now the whole world is a sausage fest.
Yeah.
So like, enjoy your time with your buddies, you know. And
well, plus, I mean, just not to mention, that's literally the end of humanity. You get one generation of your time with your buddies, and then like, you know, humanity's done. Yeah.
Wasn't there a scene, the boy and the dad that essentially are trying to, like, you know, take Ava in to, you know, get the bounty and make humanity keep going or whatever. And also, like, at that point, who gives a shit about $2 million, honestly?
Which I did like that we've had the moment of human with the father that was like, you know, I'm not a monster. Like, we need to, like he was driven by what I would say is a noble cause. Like, he wanted to, like, in his mind, whatever the government was doing could lead to humanity bouncing back, and it was like, that's the greater good. That's what we need to work for, is survival.
And you got to respect that to some degree.
Well, yes, I respect that, but I don't respect
degree,
trying to kidnap someone. You know, like at a certain point when you're taking someone else by force, then it's not respectable. But the idea, you know, it's what's the saying? The path to hell is paved with good intentions, or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, I respect the ideology, but then when you put that idea into practice, well, there's a problem there.
Yeah.
But I think there's a scene. It's when they're driving. Doesn't the boy say like mom was a better driver or something like that?
Yes. Yeah. And
kind of like,
the father even says later when he's talking to Will in that scene where you see a little bit of his human side, he's like, you know, he's asking Will, he's like, how did you guys make it this long? And then he even tells him, he's like, you know, when this started, I tried to keep my wife safe. And then I forget how he says it, but it's like, you know, I was only able to protect her for a few months. That's something that Casey won't let me forget. And it's like, you could tell that the son has like this grudge against his father because he thinks that his father didn't do enough to protect his mother, basically. And it's like, but we're seeing, I mean, and you know, like we talked about, this is a bottom-up view that we don't understand what's going on, but from everything we know, humanity doesn't survive this. From everything we know, Ava was like literally one of the last women on the face of the planet, and that's it. Like we don't it doesn't end, the movie doesn't end with like a news report saying, oh, by the way, humanity was saved, you know. It's a good, like, we made it, like so I mean,
here's a waterfall, she's about to die, he has a gunshot wound to the leg, done.
Yeah, and it's like at that, so in that world, it's, there very may be, like, I mean, literally, it's like Casey holding this against his father that he didn't do enough, when it may have been he did, like, you get what I'm saying? Like, it may have been he did everything, and it was just a losing battle no matter what. It may not have been a situation that humanity could have ever prevailed from. In that situation, it's like Ava was right, almost. You know, it's like if there is no cure coming, if there is nothing you're waiting for, if there is no hope, then yes, it almost is correct to like just enjoy your last few days and you know, say, you know, right off into the sunset, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of a conversation me and my dad were having just 2 or 3 days ago. Like, he's stuck at home, and he was kind of saying, like, he seemed really bummed out. Like, he was like, I don't think this is really going to go away.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, I mean, I'd like to say that you're wrong, but I don't really know.
Yeah.
And, but, you know, he's keeping himself busy. He's like reading books and shit. He's like hell bent on getting every amount of functionality out of an iPhone, the 11, whatever the newest one is possible.
That's good. That's cool.
He found out the other day that you can put Excel on your iPhone. He called it a eureka moment.
Oh, God.
But yeah, I think that another, it seems to me that another reason why you picked the film is because it's somewhat topical for what's going on now.
Yeah, which, and I think that's probably why it was like in Netflix's, you know, top current and stuff like that. It was probably just because of Netflix tends to do that, where, I mean, if you notice the past few months of like during the pandemic, we've had like V for Vendetta, a lot of like movies of Outbreak, a lot of movies about like this kind of situation. Netflix is like, yeah, now's the time to put them out there.
Yeah, what was the other movie? Oh my goodness. It was another one of those, like, one of those plague movies. Oh my God.
I don't know. There's been a few.
It's pretty recent. I can't remember the name of it, but my sister like watched it with her sons, and apparently it scared the shit out of at least one of them. I cannot remember the name of the film. If you said it, I'd be like, oh, that one.
I mean, like, all of the plague movies I remember from recent years are all zombie movies. That tends to be like where the disease movies go nowadays. It's like, it's a disease that leads to the zombie apocalypse. Like 28 Days Later. What was the one written by the Brooks? Isn't it Albert Brooks or Mel Brooks's son? World War Z. Wasn't that written by Mel Brooks's son?
Was it really?
I swear it is.
Holy shit. Like, that's a weird movie for Mel Brooks' son to write, just in light of Mel Brooks.
Yeah, Max Brooks. Yeah, Contagion. Yes, I do remember Contagion. Okay.
That's crazy. I didn't know. Apparently there was one called Flu in 2013.
Interesting. Okay.
Flu. Also, Cillian Murphy was in 28 Days Later. I didn't realize that was him.
I don't know who Cillian Murphy is. Yeah,
Cillian Murphy, Scarecrow.
Oh, Lee, that's it. Yeah, that's a good one too. The forgot about the Last of Us video game series. Like, that's another one that, yeah, but there's been like so much in the past few years that have kind of come out. I mean, it's a big, like, we've known for a while. I mean, I even remember there was a speech that Obama gave. I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago. It was in like 2014 or 2015 about how, like, we kind of know that we're not ready for a big pandemic. So it's, I mean, of course, it's like it's a known threat. So of course there's going to be movies about it because that's, it's a space you can explore. But it does seem to be like, in the current in the current climate, it's like, Netflix does kind of lean into that, and it's like, okay, well, this is topical, so let's push this right now.
Somebody offered to give me their PlayStation 4. I think I might accept that and start playing Death Stranding.
that looks like a good game.
Kind of weird post-apocalyptic game. Allegedly, Conan O'Brien is in a certain cutscene in the game.
Oh, really? That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just for entertainment value, but he went to the creator's like studio. Was it Hideo Kojima? And they scanned him in and made like a virtual him. So I don't know if he's actually in the game or not. It would be hilarious if he was.
Interesting. Yeah, that's kind of cool. But yeah, Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
But I was just gonna say, but yeah, it's like, it seems that it is weird that when something kind of screwed up is happening in the world, that people want to watch things about something similar. Maybe it's just like, oh hey, at least it's not that bad. Like, I don't know what the point is. Well, I tried to watch I Am Legend when the shit started, and I was like, nope, can't do it. I couldn't even get through the deer scene where he shoots the deer.
Oh yeah, that's like early dude. Sometimes there's like, okay, so sometimes there's the comfort of like watching characters get through it, that it's like, oh well, they made it through it, maybe we can't. But like this movie is one of the, like, they don't make it through it, so this is not a good one to watch and be like, oh yeah, this reminded me a lot of I brought it up earlier, Cloverfield. This reminded me of where it's like, it literally is like you get to see this basically end of the world scenario from the ground. You get to be in the mix with the characters, not knowing what the hell is going on, and at the end everyone's dead and humanity probably is extinct. It's like, it's super bleak. There's no light at the end of the tunnel, but it's like sometimes the journey into a dark tunnel and smashing the wall at the end of it is fun. It's emotionally like draining, definitely, but
the episode just felt to me. The film felt like a depressive episode lasting. Let's see, 1 hour and 38 minutes.
Yeah.
I feel like I just had a depressive episode lasting that long. And for me, it was almost something like that I was having to get through, like watching the movie. And not like when we watched Greasy Strangler. It wasn't like that. Not kind of being grossed out and weirded out and recognizing that the creators were trying to screw with me and everyone else that decided to watch it. But it was hard to get through just because of all of that. And that really is the only rean why I gave it a no, is just because it's a hard movie to handle.
Yeah. Like along the lines of like, we talked about it before. Oh my God. I always struggle with the title of this movie. About the addictions,
Requiem for a Dream.
Thank you. Yes, Requiem for a Dream. Like that movie, I think is a great movie, but it's so hard to watch, and it's like it leaves you feeling really fucking depressed, and life is fucking pointless. But it doesn't mean it's a bad movie. It's just like, it's not an enjoyable movie watching experience. Like
there's music I like that I would call a hard listen. Like it is hard to listen to a Converge album all the way through. But I like the music.
Psyopus?
I think it's.
You ever listen to Psyopus?
I think, was it Aimless Arrow? I think was one of my favorite one. I think that's my favorite song. I can't remember, but it's like good music.
Yeah.
But it's like you can't. It's just hard to listen to. Like it's not something that you can really listen to every day. Like it's not like Taylor Swift or. Actually, I was going to say Billie Eilish, but even Billie Eilish can be hard to listen to sometimes.
I think today we learned that Distance listens to Taylor Swift and Billie Eilish on the reg daily. In fact, he said he can listen to them daily. So I picture you driving down the road just rocking out to Shake It Off.
Dude, I have done that so many times. I've driven around downtown with my windows way down, like with my music at like hearing damage levels, like just going crazy to Shake It Off, man.
Dude, have you seen the I think it's a TikTok account, but it's a guy that is like he's like our age or maybe a few years younger, but he always has to pick up his little sister at either middle school or early high school, and he always picks her up blaring 90s pop hits with the windows down. Like it's always like everybody, and like, but he's got an entire account of him just pulling up at her school and filming her getting in the car in front of all of her friends, and she's always like stop, and they're all like rocking out of the background like loving it and laughing. Like it's hilarious content. It's fucking great.
It's actually pretty damn hilarious.
Yeah, but she, she's probably like 14 or so, like at that age where everything embarrasses you, and your older brother rocking out to like Backstreet Boys or Britney Spears is just like the emotional death, probably.
Like no matter what, it's all embarrassing.
Yeah.
And to me, like that's what watching this movie feels like.
Exactly. Yep.
Teenage embarrassment. Like it's that unbearable.
It is interesting. Like to me, part of the freedom comes from accepting hopelessness, where it's like I get where you're coming from, that it is emotionally draining because it is such a but it's like I almost find that refreshing to deal with situations like that are low impact, low danger like this, where I get to experience the emotions of that and put myself into that place, but see that it's like, oh, it is fucking hopeless. It everything was bad, it is hopeless, but I come out okay. I was, it's like, so sometimes that is like a freeing emotion to have. It's the same reason why I like scary movies sometimes, where it's like, I don't necessarily like the feeling of being scared, but it's like sometimes just the experience is like freeing, I guess. You know what I mean?
I know a very good therapist that is not currently seeing patients, but one day, after we've had enough time to sit around at home and watch all these fucked up movies one after the other,
I may need it. Yeah,
you may need him.
That sounds fair. That's fair.
He's very good at what he does.
Let me see. I'm trying to go through my notes here and see if there's anything else I wanted to get. I mean, there were like plot holes, or not necessarily plot holes, but just stuff that I thought was kind of stupid. Like we talked about Ava's disguise. I thought that was pretty bad. I thought it was really stupid. I mean, yeah, okay, it made sense that they needed to leave the diner in a hurry when they did, but I thought it was so stupid that they left the map on the table.
I was gonna say that. That's actually the first thing in my notes.
And not only that, it's so stupid that you leave the map, but then if you realize you realize you left the map because you go to find the map and you don't have it, why are you still going to the same place where like you left the diner in a hurry because you thought there was a sense of danger? You left the map showing where you're going. Why do you not change your plans?
And I mean, I get it, because what would be happening if they didn't leave the map was we would be like, how the hell did those two find them?
True. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But it's
there would have been a different plot device, but
I like the fact that they included something that we didn't have to be like, what the hell? But also it's just stupid, and like everything they did was just very, very unintelligent. For how like crazy and protective Will was, you would have expected him to consider that.
See, that's where I have the problem, because if it showed us in a scene that Ava realized they left the map but Will didn't, and because she's going to die, she doesn't care. Like if they showed us that, then I would have been okay with it. But the fact that they both seemed to overlook that the map was and it was leading these two people right to where they were, Will would have cared. Even if Ava didn't give a fuck about that and knew that she was embracing her death and doesn't care that these people are coming to hunt her, I Will would have. So like that to me felt like a weird, like that just seemed like an oversight. I don't know if there was a scene that was cut from the movie that explained it, or if it was just literally the writer didn't really think about that too much.
Well, I think Will would have cared just because he would have wanted to keep her alive just that much longer.
Exactly.
Not even necessarily for his own preservation. I mean, partially for his, but another thing that was weird. What was up with the sexy music at the campsite?
Is there sexy music?
He starts playing some like sexy kind of like music, like ballady kind of stuff. Like when she like goes into the tent and he's still outside, and she's like taking off that little wrap thing she has on.
Oh, yeah. Well, because they were gonna bang it out, right?
What? No, they weren't. She's like, "Hey, can you help me with this?" He came in there, took it off, and was like, "Okay, off I go."
Oh, I misunderstood. I thought they were like, but they
didn't do the thing right then.
I thought. See,
I thought they did it later, and then she had a seizure.
You may be right. I thought that was the same night. I'm not sure, and it like because of the weird like timeline jumping, I'm actually not 100% sure how that night panned out. But it was like, I mean, either way, like they had discovered at that point that even though he had it, she was exposed to, so there was no extra danger. So they were at the point where they could like have physical contact and everything without there being like any added danger. She was already dead basically. So
I think they did at some point, but I don't think it was that scene, because I think they did after like they got kind of drunk before like the next morning when the
I think you're
two
right.
people came.
I think you're right.
Because that was but yeah, I don't.
And that was another part that I thought was really stupid, was the morning then where I forget the character's name. So the kid is Casey. I remember but I forget what the dad's name is, the hunter team that shows up though. But so the morning, Will wakes up, Ava's not there in the tent. She was out walking. I forget what she was doing, but remember she was like out walking around. Will starts yelling Ava because he doesn't know where she is. And then the guy shows up and he opens the tent door and sees that the older hunter is there pointing a gun at him. The guy asks him who's Ava, and he's like, well, I'm not good. And then the guy starts asking him, where is she? Doesn't he obviously not know where she is because he just woke up and was yelling her name? It's like, I don't know if that was just bad dialogue, or was that supposed to show us how dumb that character was? Like, I don't know what, like, because it was like, dude, he obviously doesn't know where she is because he's yelling her name. Like, it's like, that to me is the prime evidence that this dude doesn't know where she is.
Dude, this is like when we watched Killing of a Sacred Deer. The thing we were outraged by was when he commanded the guy to take the fish off the grill, of all the shit that happened in the movie.
True, yeah.
It's like, why didn't he realize that he didn't know? What a fucking idiot. Who doesn't get it? Who doesn't realize it? If I was out there hunting people for the survival of the human race, I would have known, because I'm not stupid.
Well, that is like,
I figure out whodunits before they're done.
True. Well, I always in movies, like, scenes have to feel somewhat organic and realistic to me. And when there's like an interaction like that it's just like me in the real world would be like, I don't know where she is. I'm obviously yelling for her. Like I would say something smart ass to this dude. It's like, you're fucking stupid. Like, yeah. I obviously don't know.
In the action films, like from the 90s, where like all of a sudden they point like a bunch of red dots, like on their, or laser sights at someone's chest. Like, I would be like, really? Laser sights?
Really, guys?
Like, come on, dudes. This is hilarious. But I mean, obviously I wouldn't really, but it's kind of like the same sort of like, who does that? Like,
exactly,
who uses that to threaten somebody?
There was one thing I thought was done pretty well at the end there was she was still taking pictures, and he kind of asked her like, why are you doing that? Who's going to see them? And she like responded like, well, one thing I thought was kind of stupid. She was like, do you really think I'm the last woman on earth? Well, first of all, in my mind, it was like, oh, so only women enjoy pictures. But then I guess like it does mean if she's the last woman on earth that humanity's going to die. So that does make sense. But I loved the, did you ever see the movie Seeking a Friend for the End of the World? Had Steve Carell.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard of the film.
Okay. But it deals with an end of the world scenario where humanity knows it's coming. I think in that movie it's an asteroid, and it's like NASA notices it, a few weeks out and is able to warn us, but there's literally nothing that can be done. And it's just kind of like what the world is like when people know in 3 weeks they're all going to be dead. It's kind of cool. That's like, and that's one that I'm probably gonna watch that again sometime soon. But it's like, it shows like the hedonism that a lot of people devolve to when it's like literally but in that movie it shows a lot of the pointlessness that I thought is done really well, where some people keep those routines and keep doing the shit that is pointless. Like, I loved in that movie, it showed a guy out like mowing his grass. What the fuck is the point at that point? Like, would you still cut your grass? But I guess if that's part of your routine and that's part of what makes you feel like life is somewhat normal, then yeah, do it. But it's like, or like the people that were still at the gym, like it shows that there's a scene in the gym where it's literally like, it's Steve Carell and just a few like bodybuilder dudes. Those are the only ones that are still at the end of the world lifting, because that to them is life. But like the people that are just normal gym goers that they're just trying to stay in shape, it's like, we've got 3 weeks left. Would you really be going to the gym? Like, most people probably not. It's like, that's pointless at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I would predict that if we knew that the world was going to end in 3 weeks, like the ice cream aisle would be empty.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The liquor stores would all be empty, right? Like,
yeah, people would be making like vodka whiskey floats with like like
that's the funniest part.
Chip cookie dough ice cream.
Oh god, yeah. That's like the funniest part about that movie is they stop at a TGI Fridays type place, and it's like what that has become, because like, of course, like of all the wait staff and all the kitchen are all just like heavy drug users normally. I'm like, I hate to burst your bubble, but if you go into a restaurant like that, chances are the waitress really likes Coke. She's dating a dude in the back. that sells. I'm sorry. This is I'm stereotyping, but in this world, in that movie, that's how it was. But it was like, yeah, it was hilarious. They stop at like a TGI Fridays type place, and it's just like a den of like drugs and orgies and everything. And it's like it's so funny.
Hell, we might need to watch that one for an episode now.
We're gonna wait a while because it's another probably emotionally taxing one. We'll try to do some comedies in the meantime.
Oh God, really? Yeah, I don't know, man. But it's like I feel like we could do a couple like senseless action films, but we'd probably just sit here for an hour and bitch about them.
True. Yeah. I mean, or talk about like how cool some of the scenes were. Yeah.
Like, have you seen the Dwayne Johnson film with the giant gorilla in it?
The remake of it's Rampage, right?
Yeah. That's a remake?
Well, I'm sorry. It's a video game. That was a game we played on like Super Nintendo back in the day. Yeah.
That game?
Yeah. It was based on Rampage, the game. Yeah.
Yeah, like we could do that, but it would be sort of ridiculous, maybe. But
I'd be down. I mean, I think no matter what, like we've realized we're gonna have a fun, interesting conversation between the two of us, no matter what we watch. I mean, if we were able to have a good conversation from The Greasy Strangler, I think we're at this point we're capable of doing with anything. So.
Yeah, that's true. We could probably make that happen with anything. We could find a way.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I'm out of stuff to bitch about this movie.
I wanted to touch on so we talked a little bit about the one theme that really jumped out to me was the living versus surviving, which I also like. I kind of termed it as like reason versus passion, where it was like Will's mentality was the rational thing to do. It was like, we need to like logistically let's survive. But it's like it took the passion out of life, and it was like I thought that the scene where it wasn't the first scene that you brought up where they talk about the phone, like keeping it in the bag, but the scene where her dad calls her and remember the soldiers had shown up and taken her mom, and it's like she had to like listen to her dad talk with like a black screen, the camera covered and everything, and not talk to him. But so it was like during that scene where there was a fight over the phone after that, where she wanted to talk to her dad, that she was like, she even said, like, what the fuck are we waiting for? Some kind of cure or miracle? I want to go out there. I want to see the sun. I want to talk to my dad. And it's like, that to me really encapsulated like what it means to be human. And at a certain point, like if you're surviving, but you're losing your humanity, is it worth it? And I think that was like one of the cool ideas that this movie kind of, at least it's the weird thing is in my head, that's what this movie was exploring, but it's like, it doesn't tell you that, so it's like, I don't know if that's just what I get from it or if that's what, the creators wanted, but to me, it seems like obvious that that's what they were trying to convey. And then I also thought it was really interesting. Another theme that kind of jumped out to me was like the person versus humanity, and how Ava was centered on what it is, what the person wants or needs, or how the person is. And it's like Will was centered on how humanity was. And I thought that the first morning after everything went down, the conversation that they had, I think that this was brilliant writing, the way that this was done. It's like, so she wakes up, she goes, like, she reads the steps on how to come out of quarantine and everything, and she meets him in the kitchen, and she asks him like, well, how long have you been up for? And his response was, we got to start boiling the water now, they say it's entered the water supply. And she's like, did you even go to bed? And his response is, looks like it's going to be canned prepackaged foods for a while. Like, she's asking about him, and his answers are only centered on like, here's what we need to do and then finally, once her third question covers both bases, she says, when did you go to the store? He's like, as soon as they opened. And it was interesting that it's like, because that question, it had to deal with how he was and also how the world was, and then their interest like crossed, and then finally they were having the same conversation. But I thought it was just so interesting, they were having like two separate conversations that converge on that third question. But I thought that was kind of like good writing, the way that was done.
I didn't really think about that, but that is a very good like that is a very good like dialogue, the way that they wrote it. As far as themes go, I mean, I've mentioned it several times, that whole idea of like being protective and protecting people you care about.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of points where I thought to myself, like, where does it cross the line? And when you're forcing somebody to keep living when they don't want to, it's like when someone that you care about is, and this is actually something that's happened in my life. So when someone you care about, someone you love, is in a point where they're undergoing something like dialysis to keep them alive. Dialysis apparently is not fun.
Yeah.
and the little like thingies they put on you, like to like the I guess I don't know what you would call them, but they're like it's not a very fun experience, and it's actually pretty miserable. And there's a point that you get to where and people do it with pets too, like
Yep.
a pet needs to be euthanized. It's at the point where this animal is going to die, but out of our own weakness, we want to keep this animal alive, or we want this person we love to stay alive just for our benefit, and not recognizing the fact that that person has a right to die when they want to, and that you don't need to overstep your bounds in someone else's life and protect them to the point where they don't get to die when they want to, or if they want to. Because if life is just surviving for them, like you said, and they're not gonna live, like, you gotta like pump the brakes and like recognize that you're not always helping people by doing what you think of as protecting them.
And I think that oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And it kind of forced me to come to terms with some things in myself that, the people you care about, man, like, you can't be there all the time, and those people do have to live their lives.
I think that same idea crosses, I mean, that's even like into that idea is even like in politics, of how we tell people what they're allowed to do because we feel we know better. And it's like it comes to a certain point where it's like, is it like there should be this personal freedom where someone, like, they're able to make this decision for themselves, rather than us needing to tell them, like, no, you're not allowed to do this because it could harm yourself. And that is like a weird, I mean, it's like the movie doesn't specifically get to that idea. I mean, it's in this idea as far as like living and dying in this apocalypse, but that's just an idea of personal freedom that I think a lot of us deal with in many facets of life.
Yep. Especially living in the United States. That's a thing we have to deal with constantly.
Yep. Well, that's that covers all my stuff. You ready for a favorite line?
Oh yeah, let's do this.
Sweet. All right. You go first. What is your favorite line?
No, that doesn't look like snow.
That is all right. Yours is pretty funny. That is a good one. Mine, I really liked I struggled to find a favorite line. We talked about this before we went live for a little bit, where I think most of what I enjoyed from this movie was the thoughts that it was making me have the thoughts it was making me have. And it was not specifically what characters were saying, but I did think a line was really, really cool. Ava was arguing with Will about, I think, when things were going to change. I think it actually might be from that previous line where she was like, what the fuck are we waiting for? But I loved Will's response. I'm waiting for you to wake up and realize that this is life now. And next week, we will be discussing Distance's Choice. You settled on Logan Lucky, correct?
Yeah.
Nice.
Logan Lucky.
So I know literally nothing about this movie other than I think you just said Daniel Craig was in it, right?
Yep. And Adam Driver.
Oh, and okay, cool. I love Adam Driver too. So awesome. Okay. Well, I love going into movies blind. I was really, really pleasantly surprised with Knives Out, and I went into that completely blind. So hopefully Logan Lucky's going to be and another Daniel Craig movie. So we might be 2 for 2 then. Awesome.
I was pleasantly depressed by going into this last one blind.
I feel it. I will try. Oh man, I was gonna do for my next one. I'm gonna have to. Oh fuck. All right, so I'm July 29th. I don't know what I'm gonna pick. I wanted to do Arrival, but it's like I don't know if that's gonna be another. Like that one's not necessarily sad, but it's just heavy serious again. And it's like I don't know if Logan Lucky's going to be enough of a break, or if we need like another week of something serious, silly before jumping back into like.
We can feel it out. We'll play it by ear.
Well, yeah, we'll
do it live.
Yeah, but guys, so that is going to bring us to the end of another episode of the Metacast Movie Show. If you're watching this on YouTube and you've enjoyed the conversation, hit the like button, subscribe to keep up to date, and comment below and tell us how you felt about Only. And if you want to further keep up to date with our show, or even be a guest on a future episode, you can join our Discord. The link is in the description down below. And we will be live next week on Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/TylerTV. Thanks everyone for listening, and I hope you have a great week.